So we were talking about
Shakespeare. All the
Shakespeare.
world's a
Okay.
stage, and everyone is on it as a player. Only we don't have to. All right. And when we talk about all the world's a stage, that means everybody's got work to do. Everybody's got fires to put out. Everybody's got um, some action that needs to be performed on the stage. But everything that about, for instance, Zazen, just sitting, doing nothing. Basho writes haiku like just sitting, nowhere to go. The spring comes and the grass grows by itself.
Hmm.
All right, so that's the whole point is that get off the stage and go sit in the audience and start watching the show. There's a song I like very much. I don't know how old it is, but I first learned about it, I think, about 2010. It's by an Australian singer by the name of Blanca. And the song she sings, I'm just a little bit caught in the middle. Life is a mystery and love is a riddle. But then it changes in the middle when she says the sun in the sky is like a spotlight and it shines on everyone and it's all a show. And then she
Hmm.
says, just nobody knows that they've got a ticket to the show. And so just enjoy the show. Now, this song is really profound in the sense that at the end of the song, then she's in a chorus, question answering kind of. Everybody is saying, "I want my money back. I want my money back," and she's saying, "Just enjoy the show. I want my money back. I want my money back. Just enjoy the show." Now that "I want my money back" is basically is being people are saying they don't like the show that they're making. They're on stage and they don't like the show. They want their money back because they don't like the show that they're watching. And they're the ones on stage.
Hmm.
Okay, so if we can learn that there is nothing to do and no place to go, and we can sit down and just start watching the show, then that's how you can begin to work with your own family. Is recognize that they're performing their own stage, and it's all just for your satisfaction and enjoyment. So enjoy the show.
Hmm.
And there's something else to go along with that. And that is something that I was very pleasantly surprised to find out less than a year ago. I didn't know this, but I had already put it into practice because it was the right thing to do. But what came to understand that there is actually a sutta. It's in the Ding Nikaya. I think it's actually the last sutta in the in that. And that in there is a list of things that the Buddha would recommend to Sotapan householders, those who
Hmm.
were on the path, the householders who were practicing the path of the Buddha and are dedicated to the practice of the Buddha. I'm pointing at you.
That's me. Yeah.
We are to give up our duties, rights, and responsibilities for the household and let the wife become the authority. The man gives up being the boss and he lets all of the household decisions be made by the wife. Now, there's going to be several great major advantages for that, and that is you won't fight with your wife anymore. You'll just say, "Yes, ma'am." And then not only that, you begin to appreciate what she's doing and you become very grateful. Oh, thank you so much for fixing that meal. And so we develop gratitude by giving her that which she has been fighting for and you wouldn't
Hmm.
give her.
Mm-hmm.
Let her be the boss of the house. Let it be her responsibility to manage the finances, to even choose which house you live in, what cars you buy, where the kids go to school, what clothes they wear, when they do their homework, everything. You just go along with and agree with it. Get off the
Mm-hmm.
stage.
Mm.
And the Buddha has that in one of the sutras. No wonder Thailand is a matriarchal society. Buddhist societies wind up being matriarchal when the men are practicing correctly. They give all of the duties of the household over to the women and let them be boss. And some of the Western guys who come over here, they think that because the young Thai women are all meek and mild and gentle and everything like that, that I like her because of the way she is. That he does not recognize that she's the way that she is now because she's fitting into the family structure the way she is, because she's going to be climbing the ladder to the top of that family, and when she does, Mr. Westerner, you better keep your eyes open because she is the boss, and you better accept that.
Mm.
Because
Yeah.
her whole family will support her in that.
Yeah. I.
But see, I knew that from years ago just by observation. So in my relationship, I not only allow her to be boss, I exalt her. So now that my wife is now the matriarch of her entire family, even though she still has grannies, they now defer to her. She's the matriarch.
Mm. Wow. That's interesting. Um.
And there's
You know.
so much about it. I could just go on and on and on about all of the differences in Thailand because the women are the matriarchs. But basically, they make all the decisions. Here's an interesting one.
Uh-huh.
Even though the king died 2 years ago, and it took him not 100 days, just 100 days to bury him, but it took him another 9 months after that to finally allow the prince to become the king, because
Hmm.
the old guard is all patriarchal until all of those old men go home, and then they go home to a matriarchal system. So, guess who does all of the royal duties? It's the sister of the king. And when I say
Mm.
royal duties, she's the one who goes to the universities and give out all of the PhD diplomas and that kind of stuff. She's the one who is the face of the nation, even though the king has been crowned. That's the kind of matriarchal system it is. And there's
Yeah.
just so much about it, especially the choosing of husbands and wives. That's done by grandmothers. If the grandmothers don't get along, but all the grandmothers do. In fact, the grandmothers become the cement for the family. So
Yeah.
if they even have responsibility over the children, the grandmothers do. Daddy does not own the children like they do in the patriarchal system. The grandmothers, they're the ones who own the children and are responsible. And that's very interesting because if daddy doesn't do his job, he's going to have both his own mother and his mother in law beating the crap out of him. So if it goes all the way to child support, you see, in America, they have a whole lot of trouble because men don't force other men to pay child support in the patriarchal system. But child support's no problem in Thailand because both your mother and your grandmother's going to be all over you make your child support payments.
Yeah. I can I can see, we're not structured as a matriarchal, but I can just see naturally how my grandmothers are kind of the cement of our families, you know, even though, I'd consider my grandpa the head of the household, and he signs all the
Stop doing
checks.
that and start considering the grandmother as the head of the household.
Right.
And you two at your house, your own wife, she's the boss now.
Okay.
And this now is a new point in mindfulness, so that every time you step into "I'm the boss here" mentality, you can catch that. You can say, "I don't have to climb up on that stage. I don't have to go sit on that throne."
Yeah, I think it would. Uh-huh. I can see the logic there, because it there's so much uh fighting about, whose turn is it to do this or that. I see that
The
all the
answer to
time.
that is yes, ma'am.
Yeah, yeah.
When she tells you to do something, you do it, and you do it cheerfully, and you're really happy that she asked you for help.
I think that just comes naturally with mindfulness, because I don't want to fight. I don't.
Yeah, but your old system is to.
Right. Yeah.
The way that your daddy
Right.
taught you how to be a man, you're is deeply buried.
And I fall into it, and I can see
You
that.
don't fall into it. You're trying to crawl out of it. You're in it.
Right. Yeah. All right.
And it takes some training to crawl out of that. And so this is what and I've got several students. Those guys who are in relationships should change that mentality that they're no longer the boss of the house. That your job now is to be happy,
Mhm.
and her job is to run the world.
Mhm. Probably be better off.
Probably. Come on, you can do better than that.
Yeah, yeah, we would be better off.
Well, do it as an experiment for a few weeks.
Mhm.
Or when you actually see that not only are you better off, you're a whole lot better off, and it really is going to make an improvement not only to your practice, but to your family life.
Mhm. I think there's a culture in the West, though, of men who are subservient to their wives to have a certain reputation. Um,
What a wonderful reputation to have. It's called noble.
right. Mhm.
And I know that I know that there's a whole lot of reptilian brained human men in the United States. They're Republicans, every one of them.
Mhm. Yeah.
So I see it actually in four groups: reptilian brained Republicans, bleeding heart liberals, people who don't care for all of the wrong reasons, and then for the nobles who are above it for all the right reasons.
Mhm.
And because you've got so many reptilian brains in the United States, people who only think with instincts, who are in fear, who believe lies, who don't think their way through things. And in fact, if you realize it from that perspective, it was really very brilliant for the money bag Republicans to go after the Christians, because after all, the Christians have been taught by their own church to be afraid, uptight, and upset their whole lives. So all we now have to do is kind of make the change of the church just a little more political, and we've got a constituency for life.
Mhm.
So yeah, there's going to be a lot of guys out there who don't like you being a wimp. The question is, do you like it or not?
Yeah.
And in fact, you might be able to help some of those guys. Tell them, hey, give it a shot. Let her be the boss. That means that you don't got nothing to do anymore. You're fighting unnecessarily. Fighting for control when, in fact, you don't even want control.
Yeah. Well, speaking of that, I think my wife needs me. But I wanted
All
to
right.
talk
Well,
about a couple of things right before we got off. Um, um, well, I had a practice. So practice wise, um, I'm finding that I'm breathing more to get the energy of the mind, right?
okay.
But there's other things that are happening too. Like I find myself doing things that I would normally do if I'm trying to pay attention, like opening like this sort of, and my ears kind of perk up. I feel sort of energetic, all over my head. Does that make sense to you? Is that something that's
Sure.
common? Right. To
Sure.
where sometimes at the end of a session I'll feel it sort of like a workout, you know, like I'm exercising all these muscles or whatever. I could be sitting perfectly still but feel like I'm
And
exercising,
that is
you know.
completely different than tension, and you describe it completely differently from tension. Contention is because the blood pressure in the brain is high because the capillaries of the um, vein system in the neck are tight because of the tension in the neck.
Mhm.
And so they'll begin to have headaches or tension in the face and whatnot like that. This is not that. What you're talking about is no, that there is actually, because of the breathing and because of the exercising inside, that there's actually a workout going on in there.
Mhm. Okay. All right.
And we want to exercise that frontal cortex, make it strong, make it fit for work more and more often. Years ago they would say that the human brain, we only use 10% of it.
Mhm.
Actually, the better way of saying it is the human part of the frontal cortex, we only use about 10% of the time because it requires so much energy. And it's like, how to say it? Imagine it was like a mainframe, a really
Mhm.
huge mainframe years and years and years ago. Because those guys, I know, I used to work on them, took enormous amounts of power, enormous amounts of electricity, creating enormous amount of heat. And so there was
Mhm.
an enormous amount of extra stuff that needed to be done to keep those machines operational, including
Mm.
huge air conditioning systems and all kinds of other stuff, clean
Mhm.
rooms, all kinds of stuff that they would go through because all of the electricity that was being used. Now, what that means with the humans is that we just don't use that supercomputer very much. We just don't have the resources to keep it going. And so we
Mhm.
only use it occasionally.
Mm.
And so we will go from actual using the frontal cortex into the old crap for a little bit, and then we'll get it back up going, and then we go back. And what you're actually doing is you're training it to stay and be here now and be open, and that's going to take energy and it will get tired, but it's exercising exactly the way that you say, which means that the
Mhm.
more you exercise and the more you do this, the stronger your frontal cortex is going to be. The
Yep.
more successful you're going to be, the happier you're going to be, the more wins you're going to have,
Mhm.
and life
Yeah.
gets really good. Lightweight, completely lightweight. They call it enlightenment, some of them.
Mhm. um uh is there anything that I should add to my practice that you can think of right now as far as noting or um It seems to be going pretty well right now, but
Um, the funny thing about that, there's so much other than the fact that we're working with the Satipatthana, other
hmm
than the fact that we're working with this kernel that the Buddha had that looks
hmm
so complex. There's a reason for it, I'll tell you in a moment. That is actually very small. There's not very much to this. It's so not much to this that we could make it in many one liners. The whole teaching of the Buddha is wrapped up into the one line, don't worry, be happy.
hmm
The whole teaching of the Buddha is wrapped up in one line, which is dukkha, dukkha nirodha. The entire teachings of the Buddha is wrapped up in one line, never mind, start again.
hmm
And yet the human mind wants complexity. Oh, I've got that. I want something new now. I got that toy. I want another one. And so you ask, is there anything else that I could do? The answer is stop doing anything. You've already got your plate full. Anapanasati is enough.
Okay.
Get that
All right.
joy, get that satisfaction that comes from success. So that means that you've
hmm
got to work with being successful.
Okay.
And every time that you can get off stage, counter that as a success, a major success.
Mm.
Every time that you say yes, ma'am, and do what your wife wants you to do, consider that a success. Because it is.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, your only option is to fight with her.
Okay. Yeah. I'm about to have to do that. Um, uh, I may have a baby this week, so it may be a couple of weeks before we speak again.
Yes, and
Uh,
she's pregnant. Now
she
make her the
is.
double boss. No wonder everybody in your household is on fire.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they call it a bundle of joy.
Well, I'm getting ready for it.
All right.
So,
Well, just remember that really what's going on is that your instincts have just played another trick on you
okay.
and delivered what the instincts want, and that's a baby.
Right. Yeah. I I realize that. I realize that. Yeah. Part of this is dealing with I think a lot of people have the thing of you create a life, you know, before you really know what you're doing, and you kind of have to deal with it. Um, so, you know,
we and you can exchange that for create a life into you create everything that you create before you realize what you're doing.
mm,
So that when you realize what you're doing, you stop doing, you stop creating. You sit down
mm,
and start enjoying your life. Take a deep breath and experience the moment. There's no place to go and nothing to do. And remember that Shakespeare's got a whole world full of actors out there up there on stage for your enjoyment. But your number one job is to stay off the stage.
I'll try to do that. I'll try to do
Go do what your wife told you to do and say, I happily. And tell her how
that.
much you appreciate what she's going through.
Hmm. Okay.
Give her the benefit, not of the doubt, give her the full on benefit and express it to
Thanks
her.
for that. All right, you do the same, Dhammarato.
Oh, I know how. Every time Tam comes, I'm so happy to see you. I'm glad you're
That's
home.
beautiful. All right, well,
Takes you have to remember to do it. So remember, use your wife as an object of meditation in a sense. Every time you see her, tell her how wonderful she is. Tell her how gratified you are to have her as a wife.
I'm gonna do
Tell her
that
how
right
much
now.
you love
Thank you so much.
her.
Have a
See
great
you.
day. See you.
Alrighty.
Bye bye.